Well, it's the first Sunday of the month, so I've come down a wee bit later in the day than I anticipated, but I haven't taken flowers for all the graves today. I'm just going to see Mum and Dad. But I thought these are very beautiful roses, and they'll suffice, and then I'll do the rest of the graves next month. I was down in January, of course. Didn't come down on was it the 1st of January or 2nd? I can't even remember, but I came down a week later, done them all. But I'm going to see my mum and dad, and then we'll have a bit of a catch-up. It's a bit gloomy, the sky, but we'll catch up. If not, we'll do it at home. Well, good afternoon from the home address. It's the 5th of February. I've got some tea here. You know it's tea because I'm slurping. I was just coming back from the graveyard. I was down to put some flowers at my parents' graveside, and it's always quite a moment for reflection, isn't it? I'm feeling rather muddled today. I don't know what it is. It's kind of like when you've got like an electrical cable or something, or several electrical cables coming from the wall socket into certain electronic devices, and they're all twisted and turned and all shapes and that, and you try to unravel them. That's like my brain today for some reason. I think it's just a readjustment. It's potentially, sunset may be glorious, and I never find myself in my house that very often, but at this time of day, as norm. But for some reason, I just I'm like everybody else for the moment. I'm just probably lacking motivation for anything else, but it'll come back. I don't often put my light on over here either in the afternoon, but for extra illumination for the camera, I switched it on. I'm thinking also that there was a full moon in the sky, just about full moon last night, so where are we? February 5th, Aquarius. So the full moon will be in Leo, and that will be a full moon tonight, so that's probably got something to do with it as well. But I'm thinking after such a long winter, because it feels like it's long, even though I've managed to escape some of it, it's certainly been a long, long time since September, isn't it? It seems an absolute age, and it's made all the worse with all the unnecessary silence from up and down, and all the unnecessary extra curriculum of negativity in my respect, in my opinion. Negativity, yeah. I think back to the times when February was, showed face. I'm going back many years, of course, but when we got to February, it's generally a time of all the people starting to wake up from the winter slumber, and many of the ladies of the house would be planning their spring cleaning. For example, with the coal fires, which were open fires, most properties had fires when I was growing up, and of course the culmination of ash and soot that would gather in the most awkward corners this is why they had a spring clean, of course. Everything was either cleaned spotlessly or it was completely renewed. I know in our house my mum would get these great big wallpaper books the size of the coffee table. And she would choose her new wallpaper for the spring. And quite often the couch and just about everything was replaced. The couch and that was replaced every 2 years, I'm sure it was, or 3 years. It was quite bizarre. People don't do that now. And, well, they can't afford to do it, can they? But certainly everybody got busy in springtime, early spring, ready for the March winds. All the blankets were washed. Incidentally, according to my grandmother, my granny, the old tale was they never washed any blankets in the month that still had an R in it. So they only washed. It's a bit strange, isn't it? But it's probably true. They only washed the blankets during the months of May, June and July, August. But most people by April had the spring cleaning well underway, and everything was done. Scrubbing the carpets and beating the carpets over the washing line and rugs and everything. And all the men folk would be out in the garden as early as February, when the frost and snow had dissipated, and they'd be starting to dig away and get things ready. Our garden was a very large garden for a family home, and we had loads and loads of vegetables, and salads, vegetables, all this sort of stuff. Everything was grown. It was marvellous walking out in the summer's time and just helping yourself to a fresh lettuce, some sweet, or even some carrots. It was marvellous. But of course, the gardening aspect was mainly a pursuit of the working classes, out of necessity. They grew all their own vegetables, and they took a great interest in their floral arrangements in the garden. Nothing too spectacular, but they always had flowers. All the gardens, I remember, for those who looked after the gardens, were quite spectacular with flowers. I mentioned from Egypt calendulas. These marigolds were a favourite because they give an abundance of colour for months on end, and they were very easy to grow. I took some seeds down to Up and Down back last spring, and she put them in the recycle bin, I'm sure. It's just quite a nasty thing to do, in my opinion, if that's what she did with them. But she never mentioned if they came to flower, so I can only presume that that's what she did. But yeah, so sweet peas and calendulas and all the Granny would grow dahlias and absolutely beautiful flowers, and everything was, lobelia and psyllium. The colours of the garden were amazing, and it gave me a great interest from a very young age. Probably about 3-year-old, I would be laying about in the flower beds and looking at the flowers with very close inspection of all the florets. What is this flower called, Granny? Is it? I remember this, and I'll always admire these flowers. But of course, what happened was that sometime in the 1970s, late 70s into the early 80s, the middle classes started to poke their bloody noses into the whole gardening business. And I think it was a program called The Good Life. What was the bloody name again? what was his name? I always get that guy's name mixed up. Richard Briers. Yes, he's Richard Briers. He's the late Richard Briers. And he was, so the Good Life started some really stupid thing with the middle classes that they decided they wanted to go all, free range in the properties. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course, but then it gained popularity. And the working classes who had grown flowers and vegetables, well, vegetables out of necessity, of course. I'm talking about around the whole country. We're suddenly finding that the prices for seeds and actually started to rise steeply because the middle classes were prepared to pay more for their seeds. So eventually what happened was most of it, certainly by the 90s, most of the pricing had become unreachable for the poor. And all the garden centres started opening, and it became a mass market for stupid people paying over the top prices for silly little flowers that they could have grown by themselves from seed. Of course, everybody was just having instant gardens if they wanted it. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. But what I'm trying to say is that the whole fun of gardening is taking a little seed and putting it in a little pot and watching it grow yourself and watering it and tending it and giving it loving care. But no, it all changed and everybody just went to the one place and bought these instant flowers and put them in the garden. And then it became that people's gardens became a separate room from the house, that the garden had to look as good as a sitting room. So people started buying all sorts of strange things for the garden and putting lights in the garden, strange seating and formal bushes and old shrubs, and everything just became a bit of a tarting up of the garden instead of the garden being used for food. And the gardens became covered in gravel, and the worms couldn't get to work, and the birds couldn't get to eat, and the insects couldn't do things that they used to do. And the whole food chain suffered because of the middle classes wanting to decorate their garden. And all these stupid programs about it. I mean, I dare say back in the middle class days of the gardener's world when it first came about, I suppose it was all right getting some tips. It just became ludicrous. I remember Alan Titchmarsh, when he used to be writing for Gardener magazine, what was it called now? Amateur Gardening. And he was a fine columnist, very good, and then he became very popular because of his voice. And he became a radio host and television host and chat show host and everything like that. It was so far away from his gardening, he forgot all about what gardening was about. It was just bizarre. Very intelligent man, of course, but yes, as I was saying before my camera conked out, Alan Titchmarsh, I mean, for goodness sake, he's a wonderful columnist for the Amateur Gardening magazine, but he just went all, I don't know, well, good luck to the chap. But Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? That everything's meddled with. It's the same as cooking. I mean, food is for eating. And then for some reason it became in vogue to go to a restaurant and pay, lots and lots of money for no food. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. Sit down for fine dining. Great big white plate with fuck all on it. The chef meddling about with the food. There was more garnish than there was food. That will be £80, please. You wanted a pudding. You got a tiny little finger of something with a quarter of a strawberry covered in chocolate or something. That's not pudding. And this became fashionable, so you can't go anywhere for food now because you get a plate with nothing on it. It's ridiculous. And why can't you go into a restaurant and say, I want tatties and mince, please? I beg your pardon. I want a big plate of tatties and mince with peas and carrots and onions, please. Plenty of gravy, and can you give me a big slice of bread so I can dip it in the gravy? I don't think you'll get that here. Sorry. Never heard of it. That's the sort of chat that they give you. I don't like it all. I don't like these fucking cookery programs. That's why I got rid of this television, because it's shite. I don't care. Why are people so interested in shite? I'm sorry to say this, but it really does annoy me. It's like, what a waste of fucking food. Food is very scarce, as everyone knows. Good food is scarce. So they take things and they destroy the food and put it on a plate. And if you go to a restaurant now and you don't have a silly little plate, well, that much food on an 18-inch plate, I think there's something wrong with those restaurants. Why are we not getting a little morsel about this size, but that size? You know? I think the middle classes are responsible for an awful lot of damage to the nation. I mean, wasn't the middle classes the first people to put in the laminate flooring? Because they decided they didn't like carpets anymore. I'm sure they did. I'm sure that somebody dreams up some idea and they're all sitting drinking Chardonnay, having a bit of a chat in Hammersmith or something, and then they, why do we get rid of the carpets? Carpets are very working class, are they not? Well, I don't know, are they? Well, if we get rid of the carpets and we put down some laminate flooring, then everybody else will just follow us, won't they? Because you know what the working classes are like. They're like sheep. They'll just do it. Oh, yes. So, I'm not being derogatory. Well, probably I'm sounding derogatory, but what I mean is like, why don't people think for themselves? I mean, if you go into accommodation, which is like maisonette or flats or something, and somebody upstairs has got laminate flooring, and somebody downstairs has got laminate flooring, all you hear is them chip, walking around the house all the day long. What's wrong with carpets? I like carpets. There's nothing better than a fitted carpet. A wall-to-wall fitted carpet. Or even better, I prefer a Persian rug. Yes, I do. I don't like laminate flooring. It's hideous. It shows all the dust and scrapes and scratches, and it's awful. You don't get any scrapes and carpets. You can't see the dust in a carpet. Okay, you've got to vacuum the carpet, but you've got to vacuum the flooring as well, haven't you? It's just stupid business. Yes, I think the middle class is, what was that program called? Grand Designs or something. What the hell was that about? Why would anyone want to live in any of the houses so unsightly as Grand Designs? And the Grand Designs cost the economy fucking hundreds of millions of pounds. These stupid people who wanted to do something with their property, and then they went to the bank and they said, yes, we've got this fantastic idea for the house. We need a further $750,000 to finish it. And the bank would say, oh yes, that's fine. Is $750,000 enough? Do you want $1.5 million? And you could put a stupid window in the top or something. Oh yes, okay. And of course none of these people could, they all went over budget. Every time they watched that program, it was, so-and-so's gone over budget. Of course it went over fucking budget. And so anyone who was trying to get onto property ladder went to the bank or mortgage lender and says, I'd like to buy a house. It's currently valued at £73,000. No, we're not giving you any fucking money. Oh, well, I've got this great idea for grand design, but I was looking for 2.75 million. Oh yes, we'll give you that. I think everything's all to fuck. I think people need to wake up. Rub their eyes and wake up. I think Up and Down needs to wake up. See the reality of her life. I mean, she bought into Jaws Mansion, for goodness sake. I mean, she's got a spiffing house, of course she has, but it's, she's way into, I don't know, she's going to ask me to bail her out. I know she's going to ask me to bail her out. I like Up and Down. I do. She's been too silent, and I don't like that. And I don't like when she's kidnapped and she doesn't mention it to the last moment. Very secretive person. I don't like all these secrets and quiet and hush. This is why my full moon brain is like electrical cables today, all tangled around between my ears inside my skull, and I find it very difficult to make sense of everything just now. But I am coping. I'm coping a little more than I was a few weeks back, I have to say. Yes, yes. Up and Down would, I mean, she must be feeling, my friend is very caring indeed, and he's always looking after me, and he really thinks about me, but I take it for granted. I always assume he's going to be there, but I can't guarantee this, you see. Can't guarantee it. I think this is a problem. I think that's okay. He's all right. He's on the sideline, but he'll wait for me. He may not.